In this exercise, we'll talk about finding and possibly eliminating or moving triangles on our models. Okay, so this is lesson 05 begin, if you want to open this up. And now we're going to talk about triangles. We've already talked about n-gons and also quads. Let's talk a little bit about triangles. Now, triangles are going to be a little bit different because we like to create our meshes with quads, but really they're made up of a number of triangles. So each quad you can think of as two triangles. And when we get right down to the very basic structure of the mesh, when it's actually calculated, it's going to be calculated using triangles, so kind of triangulated at render time. And so even in games, because that's the most basic kind of building block of our polygon models, sometimes you'll have models that are actually made just of triangles, and you'll see those where the topology, you don't see necessarily the just grid shape of the quads, but you'll also see the triangles, and the edges in the center are actually used to change the shape of the model and so forth. So you're not going to be, in those cases, smoothing the mesh. You're just going to be seeing whatever polygon topology and flow that you have, and using triangles is the most efficient way to work. So it's really kind of the basic building block. So it all depends on your situation, the studio you're in, your workflow, your pipeline, whether or not you want to spend time eliminating triangles. When we're working with something that's going to be smoothed and deforming and animated like this face, most of the time I would say you probably want to eliminate those triangles, or at least minimize them and put them in an area that's going to be inconspicuous. I've been in situations where it was worth it to go in and eliminate or find and eliminate any triangles that you may have. And I've been in other situations where it was on a static piece of geometry for an environment. It wasn't really going to be that visible and seen, and so it really didn't make sense to spend too much time trying to eliminate this triangle that was on the mesh. It made more sense to spend our time working on something that was a little bit more important. And so it really, again, just depends on your workflow and your situation. But we'll take a look at how we can actually find those on our mesh, and if we need to, some solutions for getting rid of those. So we've got our head model here. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing we did for the n-gons, and I want to be able to see the edges. So I'm going to go to shading and turn on wireframe on shaded, just so I can see this. Now the triangles probably are going to be a little bit harder to spot than an n-gon. I mean, we can look around this mesh and maybe pick up a few. In these larger open areas, you're probably either not going to have too many, or they're going to be very easy to spot. So I would spend some time looking in some of the smaller little crevices and areas. You can see here, there's a couple, there's one, maybe two on the ear. But some of these polygons are squeezed together so much that it's kind of hard to tell whether it's a triangle or whether it's a quad that's kind of had one edge squeezed together. And so we can use cleanup again to find geometry, just like we did with the n-gons. It's going to be slightly different. So let's go ahead and jump into mesh cleanup, and I'll just reset this. So this is back where we started. We want to again select matching polygons, and instead of choosing n-gons or faces with more than 4 sides, we can look at this and we can see that there's not really a selection for triangles. There's no triangle checkbox here. So what we want to do is choose 4-sided faces, and let's also choose n-gons. So what it's going to do is now select every face on this piece of geometry that is either 4-sided or 5-sided and up. So basically the only thing that's going to leave unselected are going to be the triangles. So let's go ahead and we'll select this, run cleanup. So you can see it looks like everything's been selected, but there are actually a few polygons that haven't been. So what we want to do is invert this. So I'm going to hold down Shift, drag across the model, and that'll invert the selection. And now we can see that actually only the triangles have been selected. And if we go into wireframe, we can see those a little bit more. Okay, so we can see there are a couple inside the mouth, and there's, looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the ear. So we'll say 5 on this side and a couple in the middle. So we'll just fix the ones on one side, because again, we know this is symmetrical, so any changes that we make on this side will be the same on the other side, so we won't spend time fixing both of those. So let's take a look at what we can do. So these two polygons are pretty close to one another, so we can actually, if we want to, we can actually fix those up just by drawing a line between them. So again, we're going to use the split polygon tool, which enables us to manually add edges. So shift, right click, go to split, and then split polygon tool. And I'm just going to draw an edge from the base to this base. So kind of right here to right here. And let's hit enter to end that. Now we can't leave that as is. Now we do have a quad here and a quad here, but now we've created a triangle and an n-gon here. So I'm going to take these new points. I'll select both of those new points. Let's go to Edit Mesh, Merge. So now what we've done is created a quad and another quad and another quad. So we've created 3 quads here where we had those 2 triangles. So that enabled us to clean that up. Now in some cases, for instance, if we look back here along the ear, in some cases you may be able to complete this triangle either by taking one of these triangular edges and moving it out. Okay, so either up in this direction or over in this direction, or by drawing in a line to one of these edges. So you could come in here, terminate it right there. If you wanted to add an edge loop here, terminate it there. Okay, there's several different options here. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and draw down from this side and continue our quad going this way. And then we'd want to go in and delete that edge. That creates a quad, but now we have extra geometry coming across in this direction. The good thing is you'd be able to hook it up with the other side. So you could have, it would enable you to kind of close that up. Okay, then you could come in with your Insert Edge Loop tool, add that new edge loop in there, and draw that down. Okay, so that enables you to get rid of that one. So you can again terminate on one of the edges to make that into a quad, or you can take one of those triangular edges, pull it away from one of the points, and extend it logically across the surface, just like that. All right, so let's go ahead and check this again. So we'll go into Mesh, Cleanup, and let's see what we've got. There's there's 3 kind of inside the ear here. Now there are several ways that we can go about doing this, but we have 3 triangles in here, which is going to be a challenge. 2 triangles go together and make a quad. 3, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to work those together. If it's something like inside the ear, where you've got the option, you're never going to see inside the ear canal like that. If you can actually open that up, that'll save a lot of pain later on. So for instance, this is kind of the bottom base of that ear canal. If you're able to modify your geometry, we can go in and even extrude that in a little bit further just to be safe. Kind of pull that in a little bit, down, and actually delete that. And anytime you have an open edge, especially in here where no one's going to see anything, then that's a great place to terminate that. So in this case, we have a triangle right here. We could come in and actually just draw down from the base of that triangle down into that open border edge of the ear. Okay. We can come in from this one as well and draw that down inside the ear. So let's go ahead and run cleanup once again. Let's take a look at our wireframe. So we've now eliminated all the triangles in the ear. We still have one down in the inside of the mouth, which again, this is the inside of the mouth. It really is up to kind of your pipeline and your workflow and kind of the timeline that you're working under, whether you want to spend time to remove a triangle that's inside the mouth of your character. It really just depends on the needs of your pipeline. It may be something where, yeah, we got to have all quads. We can't have any triangles for whatever reason. And in that case, you spend the time to do it. Now, if you've built the thing from scratch, then you've probably taken the effort to not have those triangles in there because you know that that's the kind of the parameters of your pipeline. But maybe if you've got a model from somewhere that they use triangles all the time, then your model may be a little bit different. Okay, so really, again, it all depends on your pipeline, particular pipeline, and whether or not you want to be able to use triangles. In a game workflow, you're going to be using triangles are fine. You're going to be using those a lot. So again, very subjective based on the actual pipeline. But if you need to, that's how we can find our triangles and eliminate those or get rid of those. And we just want to either route them somewhere where there's an open edge, or we can start to draw down to the base of each triangle to create a quad. Sometimes it's going to be kind of a kite shape, but there's a lot of different options. If you need to go in and in the exercise lesson, which will be next, we're going to have hints once again, and I'll just remind you that those are there, again, showing you maybe some of the polygons that we're looking at, maybe showing you one or two solutions, possible solutions, or maybe just a direction to go. And I'll probably just very briefly remind you about those each exercise. Okay, so now we've got kind of a handle on what we're doing. Let's go in the next lesson and we'll bring up a new asset and give you a chance to practice on something a little bit different, looking for those triangles and possibly eliminating those. So we'll go ahead and do that next.